Okay, well, welcome to what is my time and energy management masterclass. We are going to go for a deep dive, but a quick one. So let's jump in. These are what points we're going to cover. There are physical, emotional, and psychological pillars that will affect us in both in time and energy management. So don't worry, these are the kind of points, and we'll go through them in depth. An energy audit, you'll love this. It's really helpful. It gets really clear on things that are either helpful or not. How to master task selection. That's a big topic. That's a really good, got some good strategies on that. And then the interesting side is how do we map these biorhythms, which I've spoken about. I mentioned it in the post, but how do we match biorhythms, so biological rhythms of your brain and body? I'll explain these. And how do you understand the cycles and how do you map your tasks with these said rhythms? Okay, so for those of you who don't already know me, my name is Sal. I'm a human performance coach and an educator. So I run a podcast and I love to share knowledge with people as well as coach individuals. My model of working is to look at three spaces of people. That's mind, mood, and movement. So mindset covers all things such as our beliefs, our values, our story, our identity, all the mental construct of I, the individual. The mood is like our state, our emotional state, stress, emotional regulation, breathing, how we feel. And we are feeling creatures. So it's very important to have those aligned. And movement, well, it's a big field, but it encapsulates all things such as are you physically active? Is your body working well? Do you have tension? Do you use your voice in a certain way? How well do you sleep? So all of the physical components of being a human. And interestingly, I do a lot of coaching with founders and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. And I look at three spaces. And this is sometimes it's good to know. Performance is something that matters to us, or we want to perform well, whether you're generating revenue, building your business, executing well, having personal growth. That is the performance space. Purpose. Well, if you're over 40 and you're not seeking some kind of fulfillment, I'd be surprised because that's the stuff that makes life and business rich. And I really dial into what that is. And sometimes we need to redefine it, certainly when we're north of 40 and we're running a business. And then lastly is peace of mind. And peace of mind is, as we often say, priceless, but vital. And I find that when we have a state of mind, which is both psychological and emotional, we perform better and we are fulfilled. So they go together. So these are the spaces I coach people on. Okay, time is fixed. Energy is not. Time is 24 hours in a day. We know this. Energy is a fluid thing. And I'm going to explain that in more depth. Okay, the physical pillars, these are the important structures. These are like the physical human structures that happen to us. Sleep sounds simple, doesn't it? But the quality of your sleep and how well and how consistent it is directly affects your physiology, your energy, your metabolism, and your brain, which is all invariably going to affect everything you do. So dialing this in as like your baseline is important. Then we want to think about daylight. There's a lot of knowledge now about getting outside first thing in the morning, ideally within 10 to 30 minutes of waking, outdoors in bright light. The light comes into our retina, it switches on the circadian clock driving cells in our brain, which filters through our body. If you do not get light in your eyes, then you don't have the circadian rhythm switched on, which affects the biorhythms. So again, we need to know these physical pillars first. Exercise and movement. All activity is vital, particularly for knowledge workers. If you're sat at a machine, if you're doing work like I'm doing right now, then being able to stay active and moving, whatever your choice is, whether it's strong exercise or gentle, but movement is key. And building that in is fundamental to a pillar of good energy management. And of course, downtime. If we don't switch off, don't put down the ubiquitous phone and email checking after 5 or 6. You are not going to recover well. You're not going to sleep well. And then you have this, what I call energy hangover into the next day. So this is where boundaries come in. Okay. Emotional pillars. These are the things we need in place to do really well in time and energy management. State and reaction. How you respond to things. Are you in a fight, flight response? Are you jumping around reactive? If so, that's likely to pull your time management tactics into disarray and upset your energy flow. Regulation. We are talking about how to emotionally regulate our state. Now, just a caveat, emotional regulation is not relaxing. That's down regulation. Emotional regulation is when to be up, when to be in flow, or when to be relaxed. And if you understand how to do this, then you will be in the right state at the right time. So emotional regulation fundamentally affects our brain and all our behavior. Meaning, Well, we've pretty studied this in lots of fields. Having meaning and purpose in what you do is vital. If you have meaning in the way you conduct your life and your work and you have some purpose to it, what's building towards something, it gives us this emotional quality and depth that really supports how your energy levels are. And lastly, connection. We need to connect. We're humans, we're social. Connecting with other people is absolutely vital, particularly if you're a remote worker and you're on your own a lot. Ensuring those connections will keep your emotional qualities uplifted. Psychological pillars. Focus. I'm going to say this, but multitasking is just terrible. It's the worst thing we can do. All it means is doing lots of things badly. It's scattered attention. And attention in today's world is an absolute commodity. And most of us are selling our attention or having it pulled away from us through the various channels of, perhaps media, demands, phone, accessibility. So being able to focus is probably going to be a number one skill, I would say, of any great leader or business person, because most people can't. And it's not their fault, it's their environment. So controlling this is going to change everything. Time blocking. Okay, this is getting practical now. If we do or don't time block, for example, if I'm coaching, I will have coaching sessions perhaps blocked out for an afternoon period or for a morning period. If I'm podcasting and doing the podcast related work, that's blocked into a period. If I try and do bits and pieces around each other, I'm moving towards a scattered attention and a scattered output. And that really does not work well for time management and output. Autonomy. Now, we need to own our choices. If you feel the world's demanding everything of you, you don't have choice. That's someone else's choice. Get back autonomy, and that will help both time and output and energy management. So really key. And lastly, growth mindset. Learn from everything. Right? Something will go wrong. Stuff goes wrong all the time. And the question is, do we handle it well? Do we learn from it? Do we make best practice or do we struggle with that? So really fundamental. Those pillars need to be in place. Okay, pitfalls. Outcome rigidity. I see this a lot. Like, I really want this to happen, or I need this to be here, or I want this person to reply by this time. Wanting stuff to happen outside of your control is a recipe for stress at best. And it's also a terrible use of time and attention at worst, because you're trying to control the uncontrollables. So watch out for that pitfall. If there's no flexibility in how you operate, the rigidity will kind of trip you up. The expectation gap. Now, expectation and then reality, the bigger the gap, the bigger the problem. We want to bring them closer together, whether that's how you're working, who you're working with, what your expectations of a client or a supplier is. When you get these closer, then we're talking about not only better practice, but we're talking about relaxed, quality, clear energy. And finally, overcommitment. I get it. I coach lots and lots of business owners and founders and solopreneurs, and a lot of people work long hours. Now, I understand that sometimes we need to put in a bit more, and that's the privilege. You can take time off at other times. If you overwork, though, the chances are is that your time management isn't clean, your energy management is in disarray, and your boundaries are slippy. And what happens over time, that leads us down a path called burnout. And burnout is one of the worst business strategies ever. And also from a health strategy, it means nothing, right? Yeah, you don't need to know that. Okay, task number one. You'll like this. This is an energy audit. So this is where our brain can get nice and kind of binary. Take 5 things. You can flesh out this exercise after this masterclass, but for this practice right now, get a pen, paper, or digital device. Write 5 things down that drain your energy. What are the top 5? Yeah, you may have more. Just go for 5. Write them down. Don't overthink it. Just bang, 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 bang. What is it? What's draining your energy? Oh, the stuff that feels icky and just like walking through mud. And the things you put off as well. The things you really don't want to do, but possibly have to do. So take the top 5 for this exercise. And if you want to nuance this, you can give them a -1 or -2 rating. So we can kind of look at the numbers afterwards. You don't have to for this exercise, but afterwards, to get more nuance, actually noting down, well, oh God, that's a real -1, and that's definitely a -2, helps you see the harder draining activities. Okay, got your top 5? Perfect. Now let's look at the flip side of that. What gives you energy? What lifts you up? What makes you smile? What's literally the stuff you can do for long amounts of time? And it's a flow state. And flow state's one of the tells that you're in your peak sustainable activities and energy flow. Again, pick 5 examples right now. Bang, 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 bang. What are they? So for me, coaching, educating, that I've just absolutely flow state here. I could do this and it gives me energy. So noticing the difference, the energy drain and the energy sustain, because we have them in our day, week, month, quarter, year. There will be things you don't want to do and drain you, and the things that absolutely lift you. How we balance them is the art. So this is the energy audit. It's a fantastic tool. And when we've done this exercise, I'm going to invite you to go after the masterclass and do it again in deep, go through everything. It's fantastic. It really clarifies your mind. Mastering task selection. Okay. So what I mean by that is, and I've had obviously questions on this already, like how do I choose the right task at the right time? This is a really fail-safe strategy to apply. Number one is delegate. Can I give this task to another person, whether it's a team member, whether it's someone in your organization? If it's just you, can you outsource it? Can you hire someone? Can you get a freelancer? Can you get an agency? Whatever it is, can you delegate it? That's the question number one. If you can't, then you know you need to do it. If you can, delegate. Second, can you discard it? Because if it doesn't have impact, by goodness me, my to-do list is like this, and there's a million things that I'd love to do. Then I look at it. What makes an impact? Coaching a client, working on the business, working on the podcast. These are the top. There are other things that might need to be done, like brushing up the website. That doesn't make an impact at this stage. So it gets put away. It's discarded for now. So this is not about not ever doing these things. It's about in the moment, how to choose effectively. And lastly, automate. Now, generally, this takes a bit more time. You have to set up some systems. So it normally takes more time to set up an automated task. For example, I have an email list. I let people know about the podcast episodes I do and updates. What I've got is an RSS feed from the podcast that curates the web, the email, and it can send them out to people who love to get my podcast and they enjoy listening and learning from me. So that goes out, it's automated. It saves me having to write a brand new email every time. So that's one example. So pick your example of what that might be. So you're going to delegate, discard, or automate. Now let's look at biorhythms. Okay, biological rhythms. We have them all, right? Circadian rhythms. We know about night and day. For all my female listeners and guests here, the menstrual cycle. Of course, if you're more mature, maybe perimenopausal cycle. So we know about these. For men, we're just the same. We have hunger cycles, sleep cycles. What I've noticed is that if we don't understand them and align them, we are losing the quality of this energy and time management come together. And this is really, really important. So we know from a lot of studies that our brain works in around a 90-minute to 120-minute cycle, like a refresh cycle. If we put a piece of work, let's say a deep piece of work for a 90-minute cycle without distraction, you will get more output in that 90 minutes than you would if you're trying to do it whilst doing 2 other things, or if your communication systems are on, such as email alerts, WhatsApp alerts, social media. So being clear on this boundary and understand that that's how the brain works at its best. It's 90 minutes for most people. Some it's 120. So I invite you to, when you do a task, get in flow state. And when you come out of it, I guarantee at some point you'll look at the clock and it'll be around 90 minutes or a little bit longer for you. And that is your circadian rhythm of your brain. Well, it's called an ultradian rhythm. Then we want to know the day cycle, the week cycle, and I would go quarter and even yearly. We're in different states throughout the year. We're in the UK here. We have the seasons and they all affect us. So really nuance in this. But for this exercise, know this, that we want to block our 90 minutes. We want to use our choices of how to task select. And then we're going to overlay this into a simple map. Now, this grid is empty because my energy cycle is different to yours. But grab a piece of paper or digital device, put an XY axis, model this. So, for example, in my morning, to give you, as we look at this graph, I start a little on the low, like I'm waking up. I take a little while to wake up, maybe probably about an hour. So, gently wake up from actual waking to when I'm active and doing something, which is normally exercise for me first thing in the morning. And then that curve goes up and it goes pretty peaky. So, after an hour, I'm up and I'm on it. So, I can both work or train. Either is available to me. And that peak remains high right up until about 1 o'clock, I've noticed. And then the curve comes down a little bit. I might take some food, some lunch. I'll go up, but not so much in the afternoon. And then it will tail off around 4. Curiously, and to give you my example, in the morning, I can come up with a lot of content creation, business development, all the things that are what I call analytic, demands a lot of thinking power. In the afternoon, I'm more reflective. So I offer most of my coaching sessions in the afternoon. It's better for my system, and it offers my clients the best reflective state I'm in. Now I can coach in the morning, but I find I can do both. So I put that at that part of the day. So my brain works better on the thinking in the morning and the coaching in the afternoon. And that's what works for me. In the evening, I'm not really available for business practices. So I don't do much in the evenings generally that's business related. It doesn't work for me. It could be for you. You might be of a chronotype, which means your up curve is later in the evening. So map this. Take a moment now. Look where you start. Where's your energy? Just get intuitive. Follow your curves. Yeah, some people are like the double curve. Some people are up and drops. Map your curve. And then what we're going to do is put our task and overlay it. For example, if in the morning you have, I don't know, emails, you got communications, there's stuff going on, and you need to write something that demands full focus. If you are doing extraneous things or communications or admin that don't need to be done at that time, then it's simple. Move it out of that time block, move the deep work into it. And we know that most people have a cortisol pulse, which is the lift in the cortisol that keeps our brain sharpest around an hour to 2 after waking. We know about the light. I've already covered this. We get outside and get daylight in our eyes. We are on our sharpest, most people. So protect this time clearly with boundaries. This is when you will align your energy and your task management, and your output will increase. That's almost certain. And that is how we map it. And then over the week or month, where are you up? Another example, I'm much more focused beginning of the week. Wednesday, I'll go down. Thursday, Friday, I'll come up. That's my curve. So I do different tasks on different days to work with this. Map your week curve. And then we can do the same with the month. Obviously, women, you'll know about this with your menstrual cycle. So there'll be around the different phases. You want to map that. Most of us, we look at a diary in a cognitive way, like, Monday to Friday, month 1st to 30th. We do not look at it in energy. And that is where a lot of us are going wrong and getting tired and drained because we're not aligning energy with action. If you align them, it becomes more flow and fluid. So that is a deep dive, high-speed journey through how to align task management and energy management to a certain level. My name is Sal Jefferies. These are all my contact details. If you want to reach out, you can. I trust you'll be able to put some of these practices into action.